Since I started this channel, I knew that some of my takes were going to be controversial. Talking about BTS and their position in the global music world makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It makes K-pop fans uncomfortable because BTS is bigger than K-pop. It makes mainstream pop fans uncomfortable because they don't want to recognize that a foreign group is part of their world. And it makes music critics uncomfortable because it's hard for them to accept that they were wrong about BTS and the stereotypes about their music. I knew criticism from all of them was coming, and believe it or not, I also expected some criticism from ARMYs, because I genuinely think that ARMYs are very diverse, and we as a fandom believe that all of us can disagree in some things and still all be part of ARMY. I see a lot of very respectful disagreement between ARMYs when I talk about BTS's music and their position in the global music world. I don't have a problem with these disagreements. I've said it in the comment section, and sometimes I even encourage ARMYs to engage in dialogues and respectful discussions. But every time I talk about BTS in relation to other artists, I see some ARMYs being a little not analytical when I talk about the reality of other artists they like. I can see that some of these ARMYs are multi-stans, but some others are not. Some just consider these groups an exception in K-pop, just like they consider BTS an exception. Some believe what I believe about the K-pop industry. Some are self-proclaimed BTS pop stans. BTS pop is just a fun term created by Korean media to basically say that BTS is too different from K-pop to be considered K-pop. So they are their own genre. They are BTS pop. This term is not meant to be taken seriously, but I think it can still help us understand two ways in which ARMYs see BTS. So if these ARMYs see BTS in the same lenses as me, why are we disagreeing? The answer, I think, it's pretty simple and normal. We have different opinions about music, the industry, and life in general. What I don't like is that sometimes ARMYs who I genuinely believe are ARMYs, sometimes they are even subscribed to my channel and everything, assume that I hate every single K-pop group, including their one exception, or that I don't know K-pop as much as them because I don't agree with their personal opinion about everyone who is not BTS. And this effect makes sense. Just think about it. We are all in the same page when it comes to BTS. We all believe BTS has amazing music. We all believe that BTS deserves better in the industry, and we want them to succeed. But our opinions on everyone who is not BTS will be different at some point. That is normal. But as viewers, I think these ARMYs will have a small sense of betrayal at some point with my channel, because there is this notion that we agree on everything, but we actually don't. We are different people, so we will disagree at some point. You just don't see it because I only talk about what we already agree on, and my videos can in a way reinforce your own opinion. So every time I am a little critical at someone who is not BTS, there will be a couple of ARMYs with the typical comment of, I usually agree with you, but I think you don't know enough about this other group or subject, so you shouldn't talk about it, or you should just stick to talking about BTS. And I find this funny because sometimes they feel offended about the tiniest non-problematic things I say about other groups. I really try to be neutral when it comes to everyone outside of BTS, especially if they deserve some type of artistic credit. But I don't like giving my opinion about artists who are not BTS in this channel because this is a BTS channel and I plan to maintain it that way. But I feel like at this point, I need to tell you some of my real opinions because number one, I want you to see that your assumption of my opinion is actually the complete opposite of reality. And number two, if you're getting worked up about a neutral comment or fact I mention and see it as hateful, then I think you're not analyzing what I'm saying. You're just reacting to it. And that is not the point of a video essay. I cannot connect all the dots for you. You need to do some analysis to understand why I'm saying the things I'm saying without assuming that I just hate on everyone. So I'm going to address some of the many assumptions about me some people were commenting in my last video. That means that I will talk about my opinions about artists who are not BTS for the first and I hope for the last time here because this is a BTS channel. In my last video, I talk about BTS's place in the HYBE family and why this whole concept doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you disagree with this, that is completely fine. That was never my problem and it never will be. We can all talk about it in the comments. Respectful discussions are welcome by me. And I may even change my own opinion on this subject. But while giving my reasons why I don't believe the HYBE family is or should be a thing, I mentioned a couple of facts that some people had problems with. To start, I mentioned that since TXT is part of Big Hit, the group was giving artistic liberties from the beginning. This can be reflected in their songwriting and producing credits from their first 2 years. Some TXT fans said that I was unfair to TXT for only showing their credits in their first 2 years, but that's why I clarified by saying even though they just started, they had all these credits. I was not saying they are rookies now. I was putting them in the context of their first 2 years when they were rookies to compare their credits to enhypen's lack of credits in the same time period, their first 2 years. I did this to be equal and to prove my point that in their first years, Big Hit and Belief Lab have very different attitudes with their groups. That's it. That's all I said. I never mentioned my opinion about these groups, their music, their achievements, or if they are hardworking or not. I even said the line, whether you think the lyrics are good or bad, when talking about TXT's writing credits, to prove that at the end of the day, your opinion and my opinion about their songwriting doesn't change the fact that they do write their music. It's a fact. So some TXT fans felt offended that I said whether you think their lyrics are good or bad. And people who don't like TXT said that I was actually defending TXT too much because I fell for Big Hit's image of authenticity, and that TXT actually had a lot of guide and help by seasoned producers. But again, I never denied any of this. I'm stating a fact. They were given opportunities to write their songs. Others said it was disrespectful from me to call enhypen performers instead of artists because they do write lyrics, but these are not chosen by their company, and that's why they don't have writing credits. And do you see the problem with these conclusions? The TXT members do get a lot of help by producers, but I never said they didn't. I'm just mentioning reality. I never said I liked or didn't like their songwriting. Even if you think these are good or bad lyrics, they are still theirs. That's why I said there is some kind of artistic liberty in their group. As part of Big Hit, the TXT members are given multiple opportunities to compose, and these opportunities are not given to enhypen by their label Belief Lab. And I'm sorry, but I think it's not disrespectful from me to call enhypen performers, because that's what they are. Calling them artists because they write songs that we never listen to because they are rejected would be like calling a medicine student a doctor, even though they keep failing their exam to get their doctor's degree. And you can believe that the enhypen members are actually good songwriters, and the ones who are in the wrong are the label executives for rejecting their music. I'm curious to know how you get to that conclusion because we don't know how they write. But let's say that you are right. They are good songwriters, but are not given the opportunities. Then you go and fight their label. Don't fight me for simply stating a fact. They don't write their music, they are performers. So if you have faith in their songwriting abilities, go and fight for them. But don't assume I hate them for mentioning they don't write their songs. And if you truly value their performance, you wouldn't be offended by me calling them performers, because being a performer is not an insult. Being a performer is difficult and requires training. One of my favorite performers are actually the baby metal singers. They don't write their music. Their music is, like I would say, given to them. And just like what happens in K-pop, they were created by an entertainment agency and the members were chosen for their physical appearance and performance abilities. But they are not songwriters, and that is just a fact. That doesn't mean I hate them. I actually love them, but I cannot deny reality and get mad at everyone stating this fact. So these are my real opinions. I'm not a TXT fan defending them too much. I'm not crazy about every TXT song, but I cannot pretend like they are not involved in their music. That is just reality. I'm not an enhypen hater because they are performers. When the music is my taste, I love performers, but I won't have faith in a songwriting ability I don't know exists. Another thing being said is that I'm misinterpreting Les Serafim's fearless concept. This is exactly what I said. This new girl group has a fearless concept, which aligns to one of BTS's main messages of self-acceptance and empowerment. The difference is that BTS reached their empowerment message by themselves. If you want to be really specific, RM and Suga did. It was an obvious conclusion by the way they've been writing about the subject over the years. On the other hand, it can be seen in the Les Serafim documentary that the Les Serafim members were sat down and explained with a PowerPoint presentation the fearless concept that they will have to interpret. So all I said was that the Les Serafim members were given their fearless concept, while on the other hand, BTS came up with their empowerment message themselves. I never said that the Les Serafim members were not fearless. I watched the documentary. I know they were chosen to be part of the group because they went through different struggles in their lives, and that made them fearless. But I never denied this. I just said that they didn't come up with this concept. I believe they are fearless, otherwise they would not have been chosen. But if their label would have given them another concept to debut, they would have just interpreted that because they are not the ones coming up with their concept, the label executives are. So although I don't think following the executives' idea is very fearless of them, I'm still glad they were chosen because of this and not other superficial factors. I'm glad they are given the chance to participate in their music, because in my opinion, they deserve it. So here's another personal opinion about a non-BTS group that I hope I never get to mention again in this channel, because this is a BTS channel. But when it comes to K-pop girl groups, actually, sserafim is my favorite at the moment. I like their music, but most importantly, I like that they can actually perform live. They have intense choreographies, and in non-televised shows, their mic is on. You don't understand how much I respect that. But again, I cannot deny reality. Their fearless concept was given to them. They didn't come up with it. Mentioning this reality doesn't make me a hater. And I don't know how some of you came to the conclusion that I want to disrespect the sserafim and their writing credits, when I mentioned them in the conclusion of the video as an example of a group that follow BTS's and Big Hit's mission statement of authenticity. If you connect the dots, I'm basically saying their fearless concept is real and authentic to them. But all you heard was they were sat down and explained their concept with a PowerPoint presentation and stopped thinking. I just said a fact about their label's actions. That doesn't mean I think the girls are fearless only because it's their concept. Next is newjeans. What I said about newjeans was that the executive producer's words about the group feel too much about the producer and not about the group. And that's not something Big Hit would do. Therefore, the Hype family does not align in their methods once again. So I said exactly this. So newjeans may have a musical style that is refreshing in the K-pop industry. Their concept is different, and it has successfully attracted a great part of BTS's audience. But this sound and concept will not feel authentic to these girls if their label keeps taking the entire credit. Even if the newjeans girls wrote one line in a song, which by the way they did, that's still something the CEO should be celebrating. But her words make the newjeans members feel interchangeable. I really cannot understand how so many newjeans fans got to the conclusion that I hate newjeans. I said that their musical style is refreshing in the music industry. I said that they should also be given credit for their artistic contributions, even if it's not a lot. And if you connect the dots, I basically said that they deserve to be recognized as more than just the CEO's vision. But I saw a lot of people pretending like what I said was the newjeans girls wrote one line in a song, when what I actually said was even if the newjeans girls wrote one line in a song, which by the way they did, that's still something the CEO should be celebrating. See the difference? The newjeans members don't write a lot of their music, but they still deserve the recognition from their contributions. And please, let's not pretend like they wrote a lot. Their names are last in the writing credits, which means they wrote the least. One of the members even talked about the exact line she wrote, so it's not like they did a lot, but this is still a contribution I think deserves credit. I also saw some people defending the CEO because she actually did not only give the opportunity but the task to the newjeans girls to write some lyrics, and good for her for doing this, but her actions don't align with her words, and these words were necessary to show when talking about the label's image and mission. Again, I never said I liked or disliked the newjeans members. I even defended their small contribution by saying that comparing them to debut BTS was not too fair because they were writing songs for themselves and others years before debuting in BTS. So newjeans had a disadvantage in this aspect, but for their first try, they deserve the recognition. I acknowledged it multiple times in the video, so I don't know why newjeans fans say I'm being unfair to them. Finally, some people were upset that I didn't have a section about some self-produced artists part of the Hype labels, like 17 and Zico. What I see is that they were expecting the same kind of words I had for TXT, but for these other self-produced artists, and I blame myself for not explaining something that I thought was obvious. I didn't include them because, as I thought you could tell, I focused on artists who debuted or just started having artistic liberties only after their labels became part of Hype, because this means that Hype had some kind of impact on them and their music. 17 and Zico have always been self-produced, and I also didn't have a section for From Is 9, a group who also writes some of their songs. Either way, these artists and their label's ideology didn't change by becoming part of Hype, so the Hype family idea didn't affect these groups' principles positively or negatively. So it's not really necessary for me to to talk about them. Some people said that these artists being self-produced was important information I purposefully omitted, but their situations were not affected in any way by becoming part of hype. They are just as artistically free as they used to be. And at the beginning, no one was saying anything about Zico or From Is 9. That became a later excuse. People just wanted me to talk about 17 in a positive light because they write their songs and they saw me saying positive things about TXT and newjeans for this same accomplishment. And like I said, I would have done that if the situation demanded it, but it didn't, so I didn't have a section for them. Instead, I mentioned what was necessary. In the conclusion, I talked about popular fandom crossovers between armies and other groups. I said that if armies do end up following other hype groups, they usually follow the ones who show a message, a concept, or authenticity like BTS. As examples, I mentioned sserafim, newjeans, 17, and TXT. I didn't have to, but I did give them credit for being authentic, but it wasn't enough for their fans. So here's my real opinion about 17 and the one I shared on Twitter. Since I did mention 17 in the video as part of the list of authentic artists, yet people still wanted me to talk highly about them and dedicate them a section, I asked how could I nicely tell this group's fans that I don't want to talk about their songwriting or if it's good or bad, because I, personally, for my taste, in my opinion, I'm not a huge fan of their songwriting. Like I recognize in the video, there are many armies who are, understandably, also fans of this group, but I don't understand what makes them believe that I will like every self-produced artist, or that I have to talk positively about them in relation to BTS, because they are self-produced. This is the bare minimum to be an artist, so I applaud them for being an anomaly in K-pop. I mentioned their authenticity in the video, but their fans still want more from me. They ask me to talk more about them every time I mention writing your own songs in K-pop, and this is a subject present in a lot of my videos. So at this point, it feels like they want praise, and I'm not going to give them that because I'm not a fan. I'm sorry. Just like with my previous examples, I say what I have to say, what is necessary for me to say. But that's it. I don't have to give praise or hate to a group because I like them or dislike them. I could because it's my channel and these are my opinions. But to support every point that will lead to a conclusion I want to share, I try to be as neutral as possible and share only the facts about everyone who is not BTS. The only opinions I will share are about BTS because this is a BTS channel. And I will mention basic facts about other artists and performers because they are all part of the music industry and they will have some correlation to BTS at some point. I see some people saying that I should just give the facts, but I am not an information channel making introduction videos to BTS. All of my videos, including the least controversial ones, are video essays, and these video essays will include multiple facts and information, but these facts and information just work as support for my thesis statement, and a thesis statement is the opinion or conclusion one gets after analyzing the evidence, aka the facts and information. So I just wanted to make this video to clarify that this is a video essay channel on subjects surrounding BTS. Don't take my videos as informational videos. They can feel that way because I mention a lot of facts, but I want you to analyze what I say and connect the dots because I don't want to be over-explaining unnecessary points that are not even my opinions, like I did today. You don't need to be debating me on the facts. Debate me on the interpretations and conclusions. But before that, be respectful and ask yourself, what is my purpose of making a section about some things and not about other things? Don't jump into the conclusion that I hate a group you like because I said a fact about them. Like I explained now, sometimes my opinion is the complete opposite of what you assume it is. So don't tell me to stick to BTS every time I mention a not so flattering fact about someone else you like or a fair recognition of someone you don't like. Please, let's just all be a little more critical and respectful than that.